and welcome. I hope that teacher training went well last week. We are moving on now to week 5. So actually, even though for week 4 you had teacher training, we still need to make up those classes, which is why we'll have our exams in week 16. So I checked through your assignments, and your week 2 assignments were very good overall. What I would like to do today is I want to do part 1 of the video, the same as previously, is going to be about the week 2 simple corrections, and I'll be following the PowerPoint, which I'll be posting for you. Also in part 1, we'll be doing a review of week 3 because, of course, last week you did not have an assignment, so you've had some time to forget everything. Part 2 will be actually our week 5 topic, which is about English article use and about the writing system introductions. So let's begin today with our week 5 part 1. This is the simple corrections that I want to look at from week 2 because there are a lot of really simple corrections that I think you can fix by yourself. If you take the time to think about your writing before you do it and to take time, the idea for you focusing on writing is that if you write well, you'll speak well. So if you take the time to think about your writing and how to write well and fix the small mistakes that you do make, then your writing will be better, and of course your speaking will be better because it helps your memory for you to be writing it. So we're going to take a look at 2 quizzes again because I think this is it's simple, but it's very practical. It's a really good way for students to take a look at mistakes that are common and to see if they can figure out what is wrong with the sentences. I also think this will help you as future teachers because it's a really, as I said, practical. It's a very simple, practical way to get students to check themselves, because really that's what we want to do, is we want to help students to become autonomous learners so that they can learn by themselves individually. So I start in the PowerPoint with a reminder that all of these weekly quizzes that we do together are for you to help yourself, so that you check yourself. You do not need to submit these answers because what I'd like you to do is to think about, can you find the mistakes? And if you can find them, fantastic. That's really, really good. And to essentially not to repeat those mistakes. Also, this should help you in the future for your students to help them improve themselves. So each week what I would like you to do is first to try to find the mistakes. Number 2, decide how to fix the mistakes, how to correct the mistakes. Next, I would like you to check the answers because I've provided the answers for you here. There are other possible answers for a lot of these corrections. So if you think you have another correction, you're very welcome to write me an email and see if it works, okay? Number 4, and this is the most important point, is, of course, the idea for us working together is to improve your English. So the most important point for you in each week is for you to remember what we do. This should be helpful for you in language overall, what we're doing this semester, but especially for you as a teacher, I think it will help you to think about how to help your students. So this is quiz number 1 from your week 2 assignment. So I collected these from the week 2 assignments and I tried to find common errors, so errors that I saw repeated throughout a number of students' assignments. So what I'd like you to do now is pause the video, take a look through these 10 sentences that I've pulled out of the assignments and see if you can find the mistakes. Now I'm going to continue, so if you need more time, do pause the video and wait. What I'd like to do next is take a look at the mistakes that were made. And this is really common, and maybe it's because you're very busy. You know, I don't know how much you have on your plate this semester. You know, if you have a really busy semester, then of course you'll have less time to focus well. But if you can, for each of your assignments in any class, you should take enough time to complete these assignments as well as you can. Because remember that the point of this is to help you, right? It's to help you do better. So we take a look at the first one, and something I noticed a lot throughout the assignments is that when students are writing, especially Korean, you're Korean, you should be proud of Korea and Korean, the Korean language. So we should always use a capital letter to show that it's important. So all languages have capital letters. They are proper nouns. So Korean should have a capital K. And remember that, of course, your name is really important as well. So whenever you write your name in English, you should always use capital letters. If you have 2 names, then you should have 2 capital letters. If you have 3 names, you should have 3 capital letters. This is a really simple way to show people in English that it is a name and it is important. Number 2, the first thing that I noticed was missing from this sentence is that there are 2 parts of the sentence. Number 1 is the title, and number 2 is an English style name. Now there are 2 points I want to make here. First, it should be a capital letter M for Miss because it is a title. And also, there's a difference between an English style name and an English name. So an English name is a name that is given to you in English using English letters, and it has no comparison to your Korean name and what was given to you. Sorry, there's construction outside, so the trucks are very noisy. So an English style name means that it's just, instead of Korean style, we've reversed it. Okay, so in Korean, it would be family name first and given name second. In English, it's the exact opposite. We do given name first, family name last. If you do have an English name, then we need to use a different description. So you would just say it's your English name. So if your English name is Jenny, wonderful, but you should use capital E for English because it is a language. And you should, of course, still be using a capital letter for your name, even if it is an English name. Now, if you choose to use your English name, then if somebody says, Jenny, you should know it's your name and react. Which is why I think it's better for students to use their Korean names because they hear their Korean names, but English names, sometimes they don't actually listen to. So it's up to you, whatever you would choose to do. But just remember to explain it clearly that your English name is Jenny or your English name is Annie, but your English style name would be your Korean name, except that we change the order of the names. So we put the given name first and the family name last. Number 4, again, we're going to use a capital M because if we use a small m when we use the word miss, it usually defines the verb. Okay, so I miss you or she misses him. So if you say I miss Jin with a small m, it's confusing because it's not clear if you're giving your title, I miss Jin, or you're saying there's a mistake with the verb and you're saying I miss Jin, but instead someone's made a mistake and put 2 verbs in and said I miss Jin. Number 5, Liam Gallagher. I was quite happy to see that because I'm an Oasis fan as well. Liam Gallagher, of course, is a name again. So if you want to use a name in it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter about anything. What matters is it's a name, it's a proper noun. So we show this in English with capital letters. So again, Liam Gallagher, we use the given name and the family name, so it's English style, which is normal in English. But it's really important to use capital letters to show it's a name. Also, I noticed that a lot of students are not using periods. Um, in English or Korean, you must use periods to show when you're finished a sentence, and if you don't use them, it can be really confusing for the person reading. So please do your best to use periods and punctuation whenever you are writing. Number 6 was an interesting, 6 and 7 actually are the same. I thought this was interesting actually because I can understand exactly what people are thinking. Because when you say my favorite singer is BTS, you're thinking about the guys in the band. But because they're a group of people, we would define it more as my favorite band, I think is what you'd say. You can argue it because band members play instruments, and to my knowledge, I don't think BTS are famous for their musical instrument talent when they're singing. But anyways, I would say my favorite band is BTS because what you're saying is a band of people, a group of people together. And again, for Maroon 5, my favorite band is Maroon 5. If, however, you choose one member of the band, then you would say my favorite singer is Adam Levine. Again, number 7, did you notice? There's a period missing. So I put a couple of these, repetitive errors in to see if you can catch them. Number 8, student. We're going to talk about it this week in part 2. In English, we really, really like counting nouns. So we, in the English language, most of the nouns we use are countable. So the vast majority of nouns we need to decide. Are we talking about one? And if we talk about one, for example, one student, we say a student. Or students, lots of people, we need the S. But you have to choose one. So in this case, we say, are you a student? Lovely. Okay? If there is no a, it is wrong. Because in English, we love counting. We count the majority of nouns. Number 9. Number 9 was interesting because this is another, I think it's kind of a bad habit, basically, is that there are a lot of students, I'm not sure if it's a bad habit or if students just don't know, but you cannot put a capital letter into the middle of a sentence unless it's a word like I. For example, I went to the store. I is always a capital letter. It's always like capital letter. But when we use a pronoun like they in the middle of a sentence, we don't use the capital letter because there's no need. It's unusual. So are they BTS? Should have a small t. Number 10, again, did you count? Did you see those? I wasn't sure if you would catch number 8 and number 10. I am a student. Again, we have to count. So we're going to move on now to slide number 6. So this is quiz number 2. So I'd like you to take a minute, pause the video if you want to, and see if you can find the mistakes. Now, some of these have more than one mistake in the one sentence or question. So try your best to look hard and find as many as you can. Okay, so I'm going to continue. So I want to take a look at number 1, first of all. So I'm going to move now to slide 7 to the answers. So remember, these are just for you to look at yourself and see if you can figure out why there is something wrong. So in sentence number 1, did you notice the spelling? I noticed that a number of students aren't very careful with their spelling, and what usually happens is the letters are reversed. So do be careful. Try your best to, as you're writing, think about what you're writing and sound it out. So we get F-I-R, not frist, it's first. Now, this is something I noticed seems to be, many students seem confused about this. After a comma, it is always a small letter. Always. It's always a small letter. The only time it's not a small letter is, I can think of two cases. Number 1, as I just said before, I, if you talk about yourself. So if you say first, I should introduce myself, then the I should be a capital letter. It's always a capital letter. If you want to use someone's name as well, it should be a capital letter. But in every other case, after a comma, it should always be a small letter. And the same, introduce, because we're just talking about regular general introductions now, then it would be a small I. Yourself and myself are single words. They're compound words. Number two, this is an interesting case because this is something, it's a little bit different between Korean and English. In Korean, we don't need to do this, but in English, we have to. Because in English, we like counting all the nouns. So when we ask questions, the question should be about all of those nouns. So for example, apples. We don't want to ask about just one single apple. You want to know about generally all of the apples in the world. Do you like apples? So we need the S. Do you like apple? We cannot use again because we didn't count it. So do you like an apple would be strange because it would be just a single apple. So if you want to ask, would someone like to eat an apple, then we would ask, would you like an apple? Meaning, do you want to taste it? Do you want a bite of it? So, do you like apples? Number three, this was an interesting one because essentially what's happened is that we added the do you know to an open question. So the open question begins with, where is the hospital? Now, if you remember what we talked about, sorry, it is a while ago now, what we talked about in week 2 is we added the do you know or could you tell me? So that's actually just an addition to make it more formal and more polite. So it's just an added part to the beginning of the question. So do you know actually isn't the true relevant part of the question. The true relevant part is, where is the hospital? So can you remember what happened when we added the do you know or could you tell me at the front of the question? We moved the verb to the end. So, do you know where the hospital is actually based on an open question. So anyways, the most important point is the verb goes to the end. Number 4 is when we're talking about one particular thing, we use the word the. The is a specific determiner. It shows you, it's an article which shows you which particular thing you're talking about. So for example, if we have one apple on a table, and especially if we say the table, it means that you and I know which table, and you and I know which apple. So we would say, did you eat the apple on the table? Because I want to know exactly this one. Maybe you came home, there was an apple on the table and it looked lovely, you really wanted to eat it, and when you went to cut it up, it was gone. So you ask your brother or your sister, did you eat the apple on the table? And this is why we need the specific. We use the. We're also going to talk about that in part 2 today. So number 5 is interesting because we're using the perfect tense, which means we need the PP, right? The past participle. So if we have you ever, then we need the, eaten, have you ever had, have you ever drunk, something like that. So for our hamburger, the PP for eat or ate is eaten. So have you ever eaten a hamburger? Great question. Number 6, kimchi is a type of food. So, but usually when we ask, do you know, it usually refers to a person. So for example, if I say, oh, do you know Lindsay? Do you know Jessica? Then it would be, have you met them and have you been in contact with them before? Do you know kimchi makes me think that kimchi is a person. And if you have ever watched Kim's Convenience, Kimchi is a person. So how about we add a preposition or two and we can say, do you know about kimchi? Meaning that kimchi is something. Or do you know of kimchi? You know, have you heard about kimchi? Number 7 is a funny one because there's a really simple point about using the count and non-count in English. So dog, one dog, refers to one single animal if we say a dog. But if you say just dog, it refers to the meat. Okay, so for example, if I say, do you like dog? It means, do you like to eat the meat of dog meat. If I say, do you like kangaroo? It means, do you like to eat kangaroo? If I add the S, however, it gives the idea of the noun, the animals. So, do you like dogs? When we add the S, then we get, cute little dogs. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. So if there is no S on the noun, when you're talking about an animal, it means meat. Perhaps you could think about chicken. So if you say, do you like chicken? It means, do you like to eat chicken meat? But if you say, do you like chickens? And you add the S, the meaning is, oh, cute chickens. Kind of weird, but possible. Number 8. First of all, the point, I think, was the name. We're missing the word name. And the second point that I'd like to make once again is don't forget, please, 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 to use big letters whenever you use your name, anyone in your family's names, your teachers' names, your friends' names, singers' names, anybody. Whenever you use a name, please use big letters because in English, proper nouns use big letters. So 9 actually follows with this point because the singer's name is Winner. So we need a big W to show it's a name. If it's not a big W, it means this person was the winner of a game. So it has a slightly different meaning. Also, winner is only one singer. He's a specific person, so we would add the. So, do you know the singer, Winner, big W? Now, number 10 was quite a common issue for actually a number of students. I'd say almost 50% of students didn't catch this. So please pay attention to this, and it's a really simple mistake, very easy to make. And I was a little bit tricky, I'll admit. So the question from week 2 was, is your name Jisoo Kim? And many students answered, yes, I am. But I think if you stop and think about it for a minute, you'll notice that the question, what's the verb in the question? Is. And what's the verb in the answer? It's am. So, is your name Jisoo Kim? Then we should answer, yes it is. Your name is the focus, right? So we need to talk about it, not I. So lots of students got confused by that. It should not be, is your name Jisoo Kim? It should be, no, it's Suji Kim. So anyways, what I'd like to do next is do a quick review of week 3. So again, this is still part of part 1. This is the week 3 review, which again, whenever we do quizzes as part of the PowerPoint, the purpose of the quizzes is not for marking you. The purpose of the quizzes is for you to check yourself and to help yourself to do better. I mean, that's what we're here for, right? Is to improve your English and make sure that you get your teaching job at the end of 4 years. So again, you don't need to submit these answers. Each week I would like you, again, the same as I said before, find the mistakes, correct the mistakes, check your answers, check the answers that are given here, and see, did you find the mistakes? Did you find all of the mistakes? And then number 4, of course, most importantly, is please, please, please remember the corrections, because if you can do that, you will improve dramatically in leaps and bounds. You'll be very, very quick. So the week 3 review quiz, what I'd like you to do is I've given you some numbers on the left. So we have word, sentence, introduction, details, conclusion, title, indent, and number 8, of course, is the block or paragraph shape. So what I want to see is how well can you remember what these words and what these things mean. So I've also given you some letters. You can see A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So what I'd like you to do is take some time now, pause the video if you need to, which is fine by me, no problem. Take as much time as you need to figure out what each of these things are. Now, remember that this is not an exact science, because I'm not, as you have already discovered, that wonderful at using computers. But what I want you to do is to get the idea. Now, D maybe is a little bit weird, but what I tried to do with D is I tried to show you the period between delicious and there, and I tried to put a block shape behind it. So perhaps that might be a good hint for what you're going to look for. So pause the video now and see if you can match them. Okay, and I'm going to move on and see how you did. So what I was looking for is I was looking for number 1, the word can. So can is the word, because I noticed that a lot of students, especially when they're teaching elementary school students, they have a hard time using specific words like this. So 1 word is can, 2 words, can you, like that. Number 2 is a sentence. So I chose H as a final touch, add toppings. So a sentence essentially can be short, it can be long, it can be very long. It starts with a capital letter and it ends with a period. So you can see now why a period is really important, because if there's no period, there's no sentence. Number 3 is I was looking for is the general introduction. So the starting point for your paragraph, what you're going to talk about. Number 4 are the details. So I was looking for F. So I want you to see how it works as a kind of sandwich pattern. So that the final point is G, which is the conclusion. And if you remember, if you look at E section and G section, they both should start and end at with the same ideas. So we start with ice cream sundaes are delicious, and there are many different ingredients that can be used to make the perfect ice cream sundae. And we finish off with, before serving, don't forget to top with the cherry, because that's how you make a perfect ice cream sundae. 6, 7, and 8 are the extra points that I wanted you to pay attention to. So B, the perfect ice cream sundae, is the title. Don't forget that a title should have all the major words, should have capital letters, because it is a specific name. And it should be centered above the paragraph. It should be 5 words or less. And it should be about the topic. You know, it should show what your feeling is, what you're going to write about. Number 7 is the indent, which I'm not sure if you remember the name. It's no problem, but try to remember it. An indent is just like a little space between where you're going to, it just shows you're going to start the paragraph. So you can take a look at C. C is the indent. It's the little space there before ice cream sundaes are delicious. And finally, number 8 is D, the block shape, which I tried to show you with the actual block shape. So please remember that the second sentence and the following sentences should come right after the period. The easy way to check yourself with this is to check how many indents you have, because each indent shows each paragraph. So if you have one indent, you have one paragraph. If you have two indents, two paragraphs. If you have three indents, you have three paragraphs. So please be careful. You don't want to indent your introduction and then your details and your conclusion, because that makes three paragraphs, which is not what your assignment was. Your assignment was one paragraph, which means one indent. So I'm going to stop there, and you can move on to week 5, part 2 when you're ready. Goodbye. Have a lovely day.